Hey, if you're reactive, you know this feeling all too well. You've just spun up a new project, you're staring at that blank page, and then it hits you. You have to make your first huge decision, and it's a big one. Which UI framework are you going to choose? Well, today, we are going to make that choice a whole lot simpler for you.
Look, you are definitely not alone here. The React ecosystem is absolutely bursting with amazing options. But let's be real, that can lead to some serious analysis paralysis, right? Which one is going to help you ship code faster? And which one might just paint you into a corner down the road? That is exactly what we're here to figure out.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start by unpacking the problem itself, what I call React's UI dilemma. Then we'll meet the main players, the top contenders out there. After that, we'll dive into the single biggest trade-off you have to think about, speed versus control. And finally, I'll give you a super simple framework to find the perfect match for your project.
All right, let's kick things off with React's big UI dilemma. See, React is an absolute beast when it comes to managing your app's logic and state. But, and this is a big but, it has zero opinion on what your UI should actually look like. It doesn't ship with a button or a modal or a fancy date picker. And that freedom, it's awesome. But it also means the very first thing you have to do is decide how to build all those things yourself.
And you really want to get this right, because this is a foundational decision. It's going to dictate how fast you can build, how unique your app looks and feels, how accessible it is, and honestly, how much of a pain it is to maintain a year from now. Getting this right from the jump will save you so many headaches later on. Okay, so let's meet the heavyweights. We're going to run through the most popular, most respected frameworks in the game. And you'll see pretty quickly that each one has its own vibe, its own philosophy, and its own sweet spot.
So let's put them up on the board. Each one of these has a really distinct personality. You can think of MUI as your reliable workhorse. Shadsian UI is more like an artisan's toolkit. Chakra is the developer's friend, for sure. And AntD, that's the enterprise powerhouse. Let's dig into what actually makes each of them tick.
First step, we've got Material UI, or MUI. I mean, this one's the most popular for a reason. It is super mature, it has a gigantic library of components based on Google's own material design, and it is just fantastic for getting a really feature-rich app off the ground fast. The only catch? Your app might, look a little bit like a lot of other apps out there that use material design. And then we have Shadsian UI, which flips the whole script. This is not a library you just npm install. No. Instead, you use a command line tool to literally copy its component code right into your own project. It's built on these incredible, accessible, unstyled primitives from Radix UI and uses Tailwind CSS for styling. This gives you total, absolute control. This is for the dev who wants to be a true craftsman. Next up, Chakra UI. If you're someone who really cares about a development process that just feels good, Chakra's probably for you. It's famous for these super intuitive style props that just make sense, and it has this deep, deep commitment to accessibility. Things like wide area standards, the stuff that makes sure your app works with screen readers. It's all baked right in from the start. Now, let's talk about a very specific use case, huge enterprise apps. For that, you've got AntD. This thing is an absolute powerhouse for building those really complex, data-heavy interfaces. We're talking admin dashboards, massive internal tools, you name it. It comes from the team at Alibaba, and it gives you a complete and pretty opinionated design system for building at a massive scale. And one more contender that you should definitely have on your radar is Mantine. Mantine does a fantastic job of striking a balance. It's got a huge library. We're talking over 100 components and 40 hooks, but it's still really easy to customize. It gets a ton of praise for its top-notch TypeScript support, so if you're looking for a great middle ground option, Mantine is it. Okay, so we've met the contenders. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. This is the core decision you have to make, because when you really boil it down, your choice is almost always going to come down to this one fundamental trade-off between two competing goals: speed and control. Yeah, just think of it like a spectrum. On one end, you have speed. That's where you find frameworks with all these pre-styled components that let you ship features like right now. And on the other end, you have control. Those are the tools that just give you the raw building blocks so you have total freedom to create something completely bespoke from the ground up. And here's what that looks like in the real world. Over on the fast prototyping side, you've got libraries like MUI and Chakra. They give you these awesome defaults that get you like 80% of the way there, almost instantly. Then, over on the full customization side,
You have tools like Shodan UI. That's all about owning every line of code and building on unstyled primitives for complete total design freedom. So with all that in mind, how do you actually pick one? Well, it's really not about finding the best framework. That doesn't exist. It's about finding the best framework for your project. So I'm going to give you a simple 3-step framework you can use to nail this decision every time. It's super straightforward. First, you're going to define what kind of project you're actually building. Second, you're going to consciously figure out where you land on that speed versus control spectrum. And third, we'll look at a really important practical thing. How well does it integrate with your design team's workflow? Okay, step 1. What are you building? Seriously, just answering this one question can narrow your choices down immediately. Building a massive, complex internal dashboard, AntDesign was literally made for that. Creating a super custom, beautifully animated marketing site, a control-focused tool like Shadcn gives you all the flexibility you could ever want. And for most standard business apps, yeah, MUI or Chakra are fantastic places to start. Now for step 2, and this is the big one. You have to consciously decide where you need to be on that spectrum. This is the crucial trade-off. Is your number one priority getting an MVP out the door by the end of the month? Then you have to lean towards speed. Or did your design team just hand you a pixel-perfect, totally unique design that is absolutely not negotiable? Well, then you have no choice. You have to prioritize control.
And finally, step 3. This is a super practical point that people often forget about. How does your chosen framework play with your team's design process? Because these days, more and more often, that process revolves around one tool in particular, Figma.
And this is exactly why that integration matters so much. The big libraries, UI, Chakra, AntDesign, they all provide official Figma kits. What this does is create a single source of truth. The button the designer uses in their Figma file is the exact same component the developer is using in the code. This tiny little thing can save you weeks of painful back and forth and just kills all those little inconsistencies. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that there is no magic bullet. The idea of a single best React UI framework, it's a myth. The right framework is the one that perfectly aligns up with your project's goals, your team's skills, and your unique design needs. So by defining your project, balancing that speed and control trade-off, and checking for design integration, you can finally move past that paralysis and make a decision you feel really good about. And once you've got that solid UI foundation in place, well, the next big challenge is already waiting for you. Is your state management ready for what's coming next? But that's a whole other explainer.